Welcome, everybody, to the third episode of this podcast, formerly known as Tea with Me. Now, welcome to the Cosmic Forest. My name is Sarah. I'm your host and astrologer, and I'm excited to talk astrology, myth, and whatever else comes up with you here today. To begin, I'm going to light this candle, bringing light and blessings for the highest good to whatever happens here today, right now. May it support you. May it support those you love. May it support all sentient beings. The light rippling out for the highest good. Protection and clarity and strength. We call on the guidance of the stars and the earth. So again, this is the podcast formerly known as Tea with Me. Welcome to the Cosmic Forest. I'm Sarah. If you like what you hear, please like, share, subscribe. Whatever we can do to get people listening to it brings abundance and blessings all around. Also, if you want to support me and if you want to support the work, check out my website, www.starsongastrology.love. Let's get into the meat of things. This week, we have a new moon in Scorpio coming up on Friday, November 1st. So we're going to be talking about that today. Also, the myth of Orpheus, the great bard and poet, and his descent into the underworld. As I'm sure you know, we're talking about Scorpio season. I love underworld myths, and so here we are approaching Samhain, and we're going to be having this new moon right at that thinning of the veils between the living and the dead. This new moon in Scorpio, we're talking fixed water. Scorpio is a water sign, fixed water. So when I think of that, I think of ice. I'm also thinking about alchemy and transformation. The symbol for Scorpio is the scorpion, and we also have a transformation, and there's many symbols for Scorpio. We can think of the snake, we think of the eagle and the phoenix. Scorpio is it's a deep sign. It's a feeling sign. Being a water sign, it's emotionally intuitive. Um, we have the three water signs. So we begin with Cancer, and Cancer is ruled by the moon. And Cancer is sort of that nurturing water. It's a bubbling stream. It's cardinal water. So we're just beginning. We're beginning to have these emotions. They're changing, they're shifting. We're bringing them into our nurturing, mothering relationships. Cancer, it's the crab. It has a shell. It may need to retreat. And then, okay, let me bring you some food. Let me help you with things. Also, all of them very intuitive. And then on the other end of the spectrum, we have the last water sign, Pisces. Now I'm talking about all of these, and we're going to look at the chart in a minute, and we'll see all of them, kind of how they're functioning in the sky and in action right now. So Pisces is the last of the water signs. It's the last sign in the zodiac. The symbol is the two fishes with the reed between them. Pisces is sort of like the big ocean. It's like the cosmic soup, like, where am I? Where are you? Where are the boundaries of self and the other? And then we have Scorpio in between, fixed water. Um, Scorpio is the depth. Scorpio is the ice. Scorpio is like, let's keep going. Where do we go with this emotion? How do we relate with another person on deep erotic levels? How do we look at death? How do we look at these things in life that make us know that we're alive? Not concerned with any sort of superficialities. Let's get to the point. Scorpio is powerful. And when we think about Scorpio, we're definitely thinking about power. And that's a big theme in these underworld myths. How do we claim our power? How do we go through these alchemical fires of transformation and become somebody new through that intense experience of what it is to look at life, death, birth, and all the cycles around it? Sometimes it's painful, sometimes it's hard. I'm going to have a sip of this tea. All right, so I'm going to bring the chart up here. Thank you for bearing with me. So this is the chart here for Eastern time zone. So if you don't live in the United States in the Eastern time zone, you can just kind of forget about the clock face or where things fall. Just to orient, we've got the outer zodiacal constellations here, and then the planets and their symbols are inside. So here we have, oh, this is actually today. So this is right now, as I'm recording, we've got the sun at 3 degrees of Scorpio, but I don't want to talk about today. I want to talk about Friday. So here we go. Now I'm just going to point out this beautiful shape in the middle here. This is called the kite formation. So if you look at just this triangle, the grand trine in water happening here. All right, so we've got Mercury in Scorpio. Mercury is like, how do we talk about it? How do we think about it? How are we going to intellectualize this depth, this transformation, this intensity, this question about survival? And again, we're here at Samhain, and in the Northern Hemisphere, we're going into the winter. This is the time of, did we harvest enough food? Do we have enough wood? Are we going to be able to survive? It's also Persephone's descent into the underworld. We're going into that cold time of year. So all of that is part of this Scorpio symbology and experience. And so here, Mercury is with sun and moon, but not conjunct, part of this beautiful grand trine. So Mercury, how are we going to talk about it, think about it? How is it going to be how can we play with it a little bit? Mercury is the psychopomp. Mercury can descend into the underworld. Mercury goes when Demeter finally is able to access Persephone to bring her back up to the underworld. It is Mercury that goes down there in that descent to fetch her. So that's that mental capacity to go into those shadow realms, to look at the parts of ourselves and our world that are intense, uncomfortable, and transformative. All right, so we've got that going on. Over here in Pisces, we've also got a lot of action. Not part of the trine, but we've got Saturn in Pisces and Neptune. Neptune rules Pisces. Neptune, god of the sea. Neptune is right here towards the end of the zodiac. Neptune is trining Mercury and Mars in this water grand trine. And so here we are in Pisces. This is spirituality. This is truth. This is what's real. This is collective consciousness. This is what's coming forward in our dreams. This is how are we going to be in connection with the divine. It's also, where do we get confused? How are we fooling ourselves? How are we maybe playing into addictions or even things like overgiving or kind of losing sense of our bodies? This is the place where there's like spiritual enlightenment and like really like convoluted confusion can happen here. And Saturn down here in Pisces is really calling on us to work on what that clarity is right now. And Neptune is calling on us to bring it into ideals and to really imagine, what do we want that spirituality to be? Because it's not about the gurus. It's not about somebody telling us what to do. It is creating it for ourselves, in ourselves, envisioning futures that perhaps we had no idea we could vision before. Now back here to cardinal water. This is the first water sign, and we've got Mars up here, and Mars is going to be doing so much activity in Cancer. Mars is just about to go into Leo, but Mars is going to retrograde back, start a retrograde at about 6 degrees of Leo on December 6th, and end up back all the way to 17 degrees in Cancer until February. And so we're going to have a lot of this Martian energy here in the sign of the moon and the mother. And so Mars is also important in Scorpio season. It's the traditional ruler of Scorpio. Scorpio definitely is associated with Pluto, definitely associated with the underworld. But Pluto as a planet wasn't even discovered until the 1930s. And so Mars is the energy that really like is that. It's not Mars in Aries. It's not like, yeah, let's go get it. I'm a crazy like warrior. I'm strong. I'm here for it. No, this is Mars in Scorpio. This is brooding. This is the spy. This is the detective. This is, I know what's going on because I'm covert and I'm using that fiery action to stare death in the eye while nobody sees me. But Mars actually isn't in Scorpio. Mars is in Cancer. And so Cancer, again, it's the mothering. Cancer, it's ruled by the moon. It's the place where we really need to kind of take care of ourselves, where we need to take care of our homes, where we need to take care of our families. And so Mars is right here at the 29th degree of Cancer. That's the anaretic degree. That's the last degree. Each sign separating the zodiac of 360 degrees is 30 degrees. And so here we are at the end of Cancer. Mars is just about to make that first move into Leo before retrograding back. And so there's a wisdom in that. There's a, what do you know about caring for people? What do you know about putting that fire and will and Martian activation energy into your family, into your body, into protection and caring and nurturing? Now, all of those are in the water elements, right? So they kind of understand each other in a certain way. It's all intuitive. It's all emotional. I'm going to take a big breath because I know I'm getting really excited. It's all that Mars. And so they're talking with each other, and it's kind of like, all right, we're dissolving some boundaries. We're doing an emotional healing. We're doing it in our homes and in ourselves. We're doing it with depth. We're looking at the trauma. We're looking at the things that the power that has been power over. We're looking at that shadow. And then we're going to bring it into the collective. We're bringing it into our dreams. These things are supporting each other. And when they're not functioning at their, I don't want to say higher is better than lower because for me, I'm really working on getting in the lower. But when they're not functioning in the most beneficial way, Mars in Cancer can look like confusion about boundaries. Mars in Cancer can look like pushing down those emotions and then anger explodes. Mars in Cancer can look like it can look like so much sensitivity, but not able to create the boundaries of protection. And so bringing consciousness to where we create those boundaries, bringing consciousness to how do we use that Martian skill of directness or Martian skill of fire and activation to care for the people that we want to care for, including ourselves. This is a question that's important because when these planets in this grand trine, again, like are functioning in ways that doesn't serve us, they're going to be supporting that dysfunction. And so Mercury in Scorpio, this can be the psychopomp. This is, let's go into the depths of our psyches. Let's look at the trauma, right? Let's examine what needs to be examined and then bring it to the light. Now, where Scorpio can get a little bit confusing is, okay, now I'm paranoid, right? Now there's excessive negativity. Now I'm stuck in the underworld and I don't know how to get out of the underworld. And maybe it's like all I can do is talk about how terrible it is and I can't get a break. Or I just feel like I'm just so there that and in an unconscious way, right? It can be unconscious. And then definitely Neptune in Pisces can look like I'm so dissolved, I'm so far out that I don't know my worth. I don't know what's real. I'm losing track of my body. Also, prayers and love to anybody, anybody in pain, anybody who's going through emotional crises. But, in the world, these things can also look like excessive water, and so prayers to the people who've been struggling with having to, either relocate or have destruction of property of people that they love, prayers for the water and prayers for that, because it also happens in a literal way in the earth. And so, there is loss, there is intensity. Um, the positive elements and the healing that happens is not spiritual bypassing. There are malefic forces and there are just disasters and there are things that just happen and there is grief and there is loss. And being with the reality of that and the intensity of that is the project of Scorpio. And that's what we're talking about here, right? With this new moon here. It's like, how do we bring that forward in a new way and be able to look at it through many lenses? So what I was saying before is we have the grand trine and it creates a kite. And so the grand trine, trines, again, they're easeful aspects. They're 120 degrees between celestial bodies in the 360 degrees of the zodiac. They happen in the same element, so water. Sometimes when you have a trine, things are so easeful or so much resonance between them that it can feel like nothing actually gets really productively done, because there's just, it's there. It's just kind of here we are in it. And there's not that like tension that pulls on us to create something more or to bring some sort of change forward. But here with the kite formation, we have that tension. And in this case, it's here in Pluto. And so again, prayers and acknowledgement of intensity, because Pluto opposite Mars is definitely intense. We have the two rulers of Scorpio in opposition here. So while Mars is at the very end of Cancer, the home, the family, that intuitive nature, we have Pluto moving on November 16th into Aquarius, but right now at the very end of Capricorn. And so Pluto, god of the underworld, transformation, alchemy, change, at the very end of Capricorn, the sign of authority, the sign of structures, the sign of the sea goat, the mountain goat. What are we building? What are we building as a collective? How do we put systems in place or traditions in place that are going to support us? And so Pluto moving through that sign since 2008 has really called upon us, has been a sign of us being called upon to transform those systems and transform that sense of power and authority. And here it is opposite Mars. So these two are talking to each other. How do we find balance? How do we find balance between the home, between our need to care for ourselves, and between the structures, between the hard tasks, the things that we need to do to create mastery and to give form and materialization to our hopes and dreams, to the lessons we learn in the underworld. And when I was looking at the Sabian symbol for this degree, for the 30th degree, because that's how you look at Sabian symbols, and these are all like channeled messages from Elsie Wheeler. And so the Sabian symbol for Pluto at 30 degrees, and I don't know if I have it exact for you right here, though I might. Here we go. A secret meeting of men responsible for executive decisions in world affairs. Now, this is the version from Dane Rudyard. So a secret meeting of men and or women responsible for executive decisions in world affairs. So I'm going to let you know about a dream I had a lot of years ago, and this may feel a little nonlinear. Thank you so much. Let's think about Pisces here for a minute because we're going to talk about dreams. So I recently heard this called dream weaving, and I didn't even know what it was, but for a long time I was doing this thing where at night I would go to sleep, and I'm going to preface this with, I write down my dreams. I'm really into them right now. I'm having a great period with my dreams, and I like to analyze them in sort of a Jungian sort of way. Like, I am all the characters, and let's look at this in sort of an archetypal way, and what are we working out? And I'm going to stop this screen share while I talk about this here. So I do that, and I acknowledge that that's a really amazing way to work with dreams. And I was working with dreams in a totally different way, which is I was sort of doing this like weaving and going into different dreams in a magical way, right? And so I kind of was like, if somebody's having a problem, if you're having chronic nightmares, and I didn't share this out loud in my day, right? It was something that I called in like through my spirit, through my heart. I can come into your dream and I can help you because that's a skill that I have. So I was at this time when I was doing that, and there was a difference that could be felt in certain dreams. And again, I work with dreams in so many ways. I'm not a dream worker, but it's something that I feel like speaks to the Sabian symbol. So thank you. The men, the executives making decisions at a table. I had this terrible nightmare. And basically what it was is I was at a big party, I was at a big rave, and I went into a little garage next to it, and there were all these men, and and I was kind of like a spy. So there we go. We've got that Scorpio energy here. And they were creating these machines for mass murder. And I mean, it was awful. I mean, it was like the feeling of fear and the feeling of knowing like this will end humanity, this thing. And so in the dream, I'm like, I need to figure out a plan here. And so I leave, and then of course I'm chased, and then I'm met by like a man in a black car, and then I wake up. And so then the rest of the night, I'm like, I have to get back in that dream. And I kept trying. I kept trying. I was like, where is this party? You know, like, how do I get back there? And I kept having these dreams, like, I'm trying to get back into this place. And finally, I had a dream, and I'm not conscious anymore in this dream of the previous one. And I'm sewing myself a dress. And I have this fabric that a friend of mine had given me in the dream, and it's made from an old quilt. And it's golden fabric with bees on it. And I sew myself a dress out of the fabric to go to a party. And I arrive at the party, and there's a whole set of stairs going up to the party. And I'm met there by all these girls and women. And I'm like 8 years old in the dream. And I'm there with all these girls. And they're all different heights, all different ages. And all of them have these dresses that they've sewn with different animals. They're all like monochromatic. There was one girl who had like a green one with turtles. This one girl, she was like so tall and long hair, and she had this purple one with horses. And we're all there in our gowns, walking up the stairs, and we go in, and it's the party. And it was like, here I am with this army, with this group of powerful light workers, right? And there was a healing sense that happened from that. Now, like what that means on the physical realm, I love that I'm just spilling tea all over myself while I talk with y'all. What that means on the physical realm, I honestly don't know. You know, it could just be absolutely nothing. It could just be my psyche, my unconscious. And there was something about it that felt incredibly profound. And so here we are coming up on this kite formation. We've got all these planets in water. We've got the Mars-Pluto opposition, which can really bring up fear, which can really bring up trauma, which can really bring up underworld activities. And then we have the Sabian symbol for that last degree of Capricorn as, I'm going to say it, we're right before the election, whatever that means. Again, power and authority. A secret meeting of men responsible for executive decisions in world affairs. And as I was looking at this and thinking about the project of Capricorn, inhaling our authority, and this incredible need for emotional intuition. Mars in Cancer, it's about mothering, it's about right, protection of that soft, sensitive, intuitive self. We've got all these planets in Scorpio, so we know it's messed up. We know there's an underworld transformation waiting to happen. And we have Saturn and Neptune in Pisces calling on us to bring forth spiritual reality. And the manifesting material capacity of Capricorn and Pluto, that god of power. And I thought, we need to invite ourselves to that table. And whether it's in your dreams or visualization or simply just a feeling of empowerment, we need to pull ourselves in all of our wisdom, in all of our capacity for the highest good, for the lowest good. And I don't mean that in any sort of like way. I mean, again, like surrounded in protection, language is flawed for the good of the earth, for the good of the humans, for the good of the babies and everything powerful and precious and meaningful that we can find love and sensitivity and tenderness to. And with all of the collective wisdom, and then in each of us, our individual wisdom and capacity, welcome to the executive table. And now I'm going to tell a love story. Because the other thing is, there's so much we don't know here. And we're finishing a story. All the outer planets are at the end of a sign. And we don't know what's going to come next with Pluto and Aquarius. We don't know what's going to come next when Saturn and Neptune conjunct in Aries in 2026. We don't know what's going to come next when Uranus leaves Taurus and comes into Gemini. What we know is that we're here right now and that we're really in this story. And there is a sense of needing to surrender the outcome, and really commit to, I think Saturn in Pisces, commit to our practices. And Saturn in Pisces is trining this new moon. And so new moon, new beginnings. You got it at 9 degrees of Scorpio, and Saturn is in Pisces. Our practices, our boundaries, our awareness of what is real and what does support us in a spiritual, in a connected, in a collective Piscean way is going to help us to move into whatever the next thing is with trust and beauty. And so this is a story of Orpheus. And Orpheus is, right, this amazing poet and bard. He plays the lyre, he charms the animals, he charms the other humans, he charms divine beings and even rocks, even stones. His music, his poetry, his art, his expression, it's divine. It's divine, it's magic. He accompanies heroes on their quests, and he brings this bardic magic with him. And I love this so much, right? Because again, we're talking about Mars in Cancer, we're talking about Pluto, we're talking about these really intense energies that can just feel so, there's an oppression. There's a feeling of like, oh my gosh, this can feel just like too much. And then we bring it to the art. We bring it to the joy, we bring it to beauty, we bring it to expression. And so I'm going to just say, before I go any further with this myth of Orpheus, if you have any inclination to work with your artistic, creative explorations right now, I think that's a really great way, and bring that to the table, bring that to the executive council. It doesn't need to be a boring place. It needs to be a beautiful place. It needs to be a place inspired. So Orpheus is inspired. He falls in love. He falls in love with the beautiful Eurydice. Eurydice, the mountain nymph. She's everything he's ever wanted. He's her muse. She's his muse. And I want to elevate the muse. You know, she's not just some random lady. She's beautiful. She's beautiful in spirit and in heart. She's there. She's this personification of nature, of the mountain. Think of Capricorn. It's like the beauty. She has this incredible capacity and perfection. And he's completely enamored by her. He composes love poetry for her. He composes songs for her. And she's totally won over. And so they're married. And shortly after their wedding, another man wants to be with her, chases her off. She runs. It's literally like right after their wedding. They've just said their vows. Orpheus is like, oh, I got to be with this woman in my dreams. But then he turns his back. She's being chased by another man. She steps on a snake, a poisonous viper. She's bit and she dies. She goes to the underworld. Now, Orpheus, he laments, right? He's sorrowful. And the surrounding nymphs and all of the beings, the animals, they're like, oh, Orpheus, you got to get her. You're so sad. Please get her. He's like, yes, I will. And he goes to the underworld. He brings his lyre and he comes to Cerberus, the three-headed dog. And he plays this most beautiful song, and Cerberus falls asleep. And so then he's able to enter. He enters the kingdom of Pluto, of Hades, of Persephone. And he goes, and there they are, Pluto and Persephone sitting on their jeweled thrones. And again, charismatic Orpheus, he plays his lyre. He says his poetry. He's like Eurydice, right? She's my nymph. She is my soulmate. Please let me bring her back. Please. And he plays his music and he brings this incredible amount of feeling so that even Pluto and Persephone feel touched. Yeah, you can take her. Yes. She may journey with you back to the upper world on one condition. You must not look at her until you have reached the above world. And so Orpheus takes her hand. He has not seen her. And they journey up and up and up, leaving the land below, leaving the dark cavern of the dead, of the crystals, of transformation. He sees the light above. They're in the cavern still, they're in the cave. And why does he turn back? Why does somebody always turn back? He turns around, making sure she's there, mistrust. He turns around, mistrust. I've been there. And he sees her. And just as he sees her, she shimmers away back to the underworld. And now he's alone again, sitting in the fields, totally grief-stricken, shamed. He can't do it again. So there's the pause. There's the moment of real loss. There's the moment of no amount of Mars is going to let me get back there. No amount of charisma. The feeling is all that is here. And this is Pluto. I mean, this is Scorpio. There's no getting out. It's fixed water. And then the Neptune, right? Let's play the lyre. Play my grief. And again, he laments. And that lament, this lament is so touching, so feeling, so heartfelt that his lament echoes still through our world. that his lament is in the grief of all grief. It just so happens that nearby, as he's playing his songs of loss, of longing, a Dionysian orgy is happening. And the Meads, these wild ladies, they've got, you know, like horns, and they're wearing the pelts of deer. And when they take their fingers and pull them across the earth, milk springs forth. They're known to get into frenzies and pull animals and people into pieces. This is fierce, ecstatic wildness. Dionysus, right? The god of wine, with these frenzy Meads, his followers. And they're having this amazing party, and they're really feeling that ecstasy, this like incredible sensation. It's like orgasmic, right? It's like every little cell of their body, and then here comes this lamenting pain of grief, just sounding through the trees, sounding through the earth, this lamenting pain of grief, and it insults that. Oh my God, you're killing the mood. You're killing the party. And so they invite him to join, right? Like, come on, have fun with us, Orpheus. Bring your music here. Have a party. Get over it. But Orpheus can't get over it. He just lost the love of his life. And so he plays and he plays, and he's like, no, I just need to grieve. I just need to be sad. Oh, I get it, right? You just need to be grieved. I just need to be sad. And then the wild Meads are like, well, we better kill him. And that, you know, like talking about parts again. Now we're not doing dream travel into someone else's dream, but let's go into the own parts of this myth, right? I get that. The parts of me that want to feel bad, and then the parts of me that don't. We better kill him. No, it's not serious like that, right? Oh, we better kill him. And they've got their spears, and they're throwing them at him, throwing their javelins, throwing their spears. We can't have this. No grief here. But his song, his magic is so powerful that the spears bounce off. He's impenetrable. But then they realize if we scream while we throw these spears, then it'll drown out his music. So he starts screaming. Spirit. He's killed. He's dead. The music stops. And Meads go on. And then Orpheus gets to be with Eurydice in the underworld. And he's reunited with his love. Blessings on you. Thank you for tuning in. Please like, share, check out my webpage. I've got a store on there. I do readings. Blessings and love in celebration of your new moon. This is Sarah from the Cosmic Forest, signing off.